Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Toilets and Titles. My name is Justin. I'm back here with you again tonight. I know many of you were watching this morning's episode with the Texans. That episode, unfortunately, got a little bit depressing. I'm not going to lie. The Texans episode was the first one where we didn't really have guys that were too super excited about their team. Go imagine. But fortunately, we've got three bright fellas that are ready to cheer up our evenings for us and end the day on a much lighter note, because today's episode, as you can see down there on your screen, is the San Francisco 49ers Offseason Breakdown Show. So before I get into the introductions, let's hit all the house cleaning items. You guys can catch us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, When a Family Breaks, which is our other Facebook page, Spotify, and then now, of course, our Patreon, patreon.com/Toilets and Titles. It's pretty easy to find our show. Our handle is not very common. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for us to help us out. Give us that 5-star review. Don't forget, if you give us a 5-star review and leave us a good comment, you will potentially qualify for a free entry to our Listeners League, the Frankenstank League, second annual. And before I introduce the host, I do want to give a quick shout out to Bogard from the Rum Boys. Bogard is currently in the hospital right now with his baby mama, and they're about to have a baby. So
they just had the baby. Actually, he texted me a video. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, little girl.
So Bogard was going to come on the show. I'm a big fan of his and the Rum Boys, and since he wasn't able to come on, fortunately, Justin was able to pop on for us. So, Justin, you said that was a baby girl?
Yes, yeah.
Outstanding. You guys can check Justin out down at the bottom is @ManagementClock. Justin, is there anything you want to prep up about your show, or I mean, not your show, anything you're doing right now, working on right now?
Oh man, so I don't know if you guys have heard of the Pace League I put together. It's me and my buddy Jay the Plug put it together. It's a charity league. We got a bunch of people involved in this, which is incredible. The people we are able to get involved. We got Darren Waller involved in this thing, Danny Woodhead that are in our league, Andy Holloway from the Fantasy Footballers, Marcus Grant from NFL Network, T-Pain is in this thing.
Nice.
And we're raising money for a bunch of charities. We have a page we run on Instagram. It's just Pace League, so check it out. If you guys want to donate any money to it, there's a link there, and it goes to the charity of whoever wins this thing. So there's 12 or 14 charities in play.
Nice. Outstanding. Thank you very much for that. That's wonderful. Matt, we got Matt Woolsey at is it Ars God FF?
Aries. The god Aries, the god of war. So it's Aries, the god of fantasy football.
Gotcha. I can dig it. Contributor at 49ers Hub and at Sports Talk Line. Anything you want to prep up any or prop up any articles or anything that you're working on right now?
Nothing at the current moment. I know we are just 6 weeks or so away from training camp. So things are definitely getting ready to ramp up. I know we're getting ready to enter that quiet period, before things really start. So here in the next few weeks, things really are going to start ramping up. And the guys at the 49ers Hub, they are amazing, and they put out some good stuff.
Right on. Yeah, we'll definitely make sure to check it out. And you're right, we are in the eye of the storm right now. Things are getting calm. You're starting to get those sleeper app updates out of the middle of nowhere that are totally talking about 2 or 3 guys from a team that mean absolutely nothing right now, and you're all excited about it. Like, ooh, what does that do for my fantasy teams? like I'm going to go out and get Duvernay now because he's having a good OTA. All right, Chris G. At the _ pre-snap read, contributor over at Rotoballer. Anything that you want to prop up or anything you're busy with tonight that you want to talk about?
My mock draft for the non-Superflex rookie drafts just came out. I have a Superflex one coming out, and then my IDP rankings will probably be up sometime this weekend. That's pre-camp, obviously. Those will change once the camp starts to get going, but the draft had some interesting things fall out that I'm excited to get out.
And we can find all that on Rotoballer?
Yep.
Outstanding. Right on. Well, I mean, everyone else out there, check us out at Toilets and Titles. You guys will see the rest of the guys from our show. The rest of the guys' handles floating across there at the bottom. And let's get started with this. So like I said, we're going to be talking about the San Francisco 49ers. So the idea behind these episodes, these bonus episodes, in case any of you aren't aware, is that I don't know a heck of a lot, like in-depth analysis type stuff on other teams. I'm a Colts fan. I follow the Colts. I'm obsessed with the Colts, and I know a lot about the Colts. I don't know a heck of a lot about all these other teams. Last season, I did some bonus episodes where I tried to talk about all these other seasons, and it was a complete all these other teams, and it was a complete fail. So I got the great idea to try to bring on people that follow their team on a regular basis and just let you guys talk about your team. So I guess the easy place to start right now is with Trey Lance, it was the first round pick for the 49ers, and they brought him in my opinion. I'm guessing that Kyle Shanahan wanted another quarterback that he could groom, and one that maybe he might actually like a little better than Jimmy G, or maybe one that could stay healthier than Jimmy G. I'm not really sure, but I'm just kind of curious to see what you guys think. We'll start right here next to me with Chris. Do we have any kind of a rough idea when you think that this transition might happen, or is there even going to be a transition?
I mean, I think the first thing that's interesting, and you have to really dig deep, I guess. Did Kyle Shanahan really want Trey Lance? Everyone's saying yes. I think probably. Grant Cohn thinks no. There's some people who think that he really still wanted Mac Jones, and if you watch some of the camp reports and things like that, some people are even throwing out there that Shanahan's trying to set him up for failure. I don't believe that. I think it's conspiracy season where everyone's trying to find something to write about. My personal opinion is I ever since Carson Wentz, I think you can't sit a quarterback too long. I've not ever seen a quarterback where they said, he failed because he sat too long and learned. It's always they rushed him to the field. I am not the biggest Jimmy G fan. In February, I wrote up the 49ers QB position and bashed Garoppolo relatively hard. He threw 27 passes in the playoffs to get him to the Super Bowl, but people say he got them there. That pissed me off because, I mean, how he didn't get them there. The defense got him there. Mostert got him there. They had a great team.
Great coaching got them there.
Yeah.
He game managed them there.
Right. But I mean, people use that.
No, he took some amazing knees though.
Right. But he's an average, league average to slightly above league average quarterback, which there's value in that. And I may call me a skeptic. I think this team overall, I mean, is still not as good as 2019 was. We don't have DeVorest Buckner, for example. That's a huge thing that people I think are ignoring. Yeah. That was huge. He was fantastic. He was one of my favorite 49ers. Nick Bosa's coming back from a knee injury. I'm hopeful he'll be healthy, but it was more complicated than we thought it would be. Dee Ford, I don't think we'll be back. So anyway.
And we have a brand new defensive coordinator that's unproven at this point. I mean, I think he'll be great, but he's unproven.
Right. I like him too, but we don't know. So anyway, go ahead.
He at least came up through the ranks. I mean, it's not like they pulled someone new. So at least he's been in the system.
And I feel like I actually have one of Bogart's hats over here and the exact same sunglasses Bogart wears. He loves his coordinator talk. Yeah. I almost want to put them on while I talk about him. But he came up as their linebacker coach, and he's credited with the development of Fred Warner. And I mean, I've been saying Fred Warner is underrated, and it's hard to even say that at this point because now he's finally getting so much respect in the league, and I still think he's underrated. I think he might be the best linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah, it's hard not to think of Ryans as kind of like a Vrabel career arc. Vrabel came up very similar, former player, really good player, respected. Teams were looking to add him, became a defensive coordinator, and quickly became a head coach. And his guys love him. But on Lance, I would personally sit him all year. I don't think this team. I think this team could be a good playoff team. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team this year. So I err on the side of caution and sit him. What do I think will happen? I think we'll probably see some snaps and run plays, designed run plays, and probably work him in mid-season when Jimmy Garoppolo pulls a hammy or something.
Yeah, man, I think so. I think we'll see, regardless of an injury, he'll come in. I think I agree with you that he should sit through an entire season because but you don't really see that anymore in the NFL. It's always such a hurry. And I mean, I think that's just not just in the NFL. That's just society today, right? We want instant gratification. Give it to me right now. We drafted this guy so high. He's going to be so great. So why isn't he starting right now? That's just how people look at it. So he's going to get on the field. And there's no way Shanahan's setting him up to fail because that's setting yourself up to possibly lose your job. Like you traded away your draft picks to get this dude who then you set up to fail, which means you're a failure for years to come. Like that's ridiculous. I don't think that he would do that. And I just don't see that in his personality. He's not a vindictive type of person. Even if he didn't get his way, if anything, I think that, Shanahan, like in the past, has been too hard on himself over things. Like I think that he has used Jimmy G and been like, oh, I can coach my way to a victory, to a Super Bowl with this quarterback that's average or above average. And then like he puts it on himself when it doesn't happen. And like, yeah, you could do that, but there's no need to play on hard mode. Go get you a Trey Lance or I mean, even I wanted Justin Fields. That's the guy I wanted, but Trey Lance was my second guy, so I'm fine with it. But go get you that. Make the game easier for yourself. You don't need to coach your way to every victory.
A few weeks ago, I had to write an article, why the 49ers should kick Jimmy G to the side. And that was a hard article to write because I personally didn't believe in doing that. Yeah, there was another guy that got to do the keep Jimmy G article. I'm like, that's the one I needed because that's how I felt. Keep Jimmy G. Yeah, Jimmy. Okay, no one here. I think we all understand Jimmy G's not. He's not the future.
Yeah,
he's not he's not Tom Brady. It's fine. But
he's way better looking.
He is way better looking.
I've been trying to get my league to adopt that in some way for fantasy points. No one has accepted it yet.
I want Trey Lance to sit all season. I mean, you look at, and I'm not saying Trey Lance is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes sat an entire season. Right. You want to go back and even farther back to the Bengals in 2005. I'm in Cincinnati, so I got Bengals stuff. But when they drafted Carson Palmer, they made Carson Palmer sit, an entire season. Kyle Shanahan does not have a cakewalk playbook. It's been well documented how difficult it is. And I'm not saying, Trey Lance can't pick it up, but give him an entire season to really dive into this playbook, really grasp, the concepts. Kyle Shanahan, he's not a difficult coach. He makes plays that are just unbelievable. And there's a reason, it's everything's dissected down, perfectly, so I want Trey Lance to sit and really, learn behind an above average quarterback.
Well, and there's some people who think he needs to fix his throwing motion. I don't think it's broken, but he does miss high. And one of the things you remember about Mahomes in camp the first 2 years, picks, interceptions. And that, I mean, he was a risk taker. Lance is not a risk taker, but he does miss high. And there's some people who think he needs to just work with Tom House or a QB expert to fix his motion a little bit. I think I'm hearing that's probably the biggest reason he may sit is if there's a fundamental
issue there. Yeah. I think that also with Jimmy G, something that we might see is he might be there until another quarterback gets injured. and then there's now they have leverage in a trade, and then now that this team is willing to pay to get a Jimmy G. So
right, like the Sam Bradford trade with the
yeah, absolutely, because the 49ers already have the quarterback that they plan to move forward with, and that would just kind of clear up that space, allow them to get more capital for him than what was being offered in the offseason.
Right. So, although, I mean, the argument could also be you're going to get a higher pick if you let him play and he does well. And right now,
but that's a gamble, especially with Jimmy G, because he could also get injured.
But right now, what were we offered? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, according to my sources, which I have absolutely none, I'm assuming less than a first round.
Right.
they were asking for a first.
Yeah.
How much of a concern is it that Trey Lance didn't really play that much in college, too?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's got to be a concern. Anyone who would say it's not, I mean, that's just being wishful thinking, right? Because, of course, the bigger sample size you have, the better it is for you to analyze a situation. So it has to come into, your thought process. But from what we did see, he looked magnificent. So, I mean, I like what I did see. It's just I would have liked to see more.
Right.
I've also heard on the on the opposite effect. Kyle Shanahan didn't want. I mean, the thing with Jimmy G is he's been through different systems and everything. Kyle Shanahan didn't want to have to retrain. A quarterback. So if you got a guy who, he hasn't played a lot, but when he has played, he has shown great. There's less that Kyle Shanahan has to strip away. No, don't do that anymore. We're going to do it my way now.
And
go ahead.
As a rookie quarterback, how much better of a situation could you step into too? Behind this because they have an amazing offensive line there. Their running game is, I mean, not that they have Christian McCaffrey or Saquon or someone of that caliber, but just the running game, how they run it, and it's amazing to take that pressure off the quarterback. Like you said before, Chris, Jimmy only had to throw the ball, what was it, 28 times you said?
I think 27 over
27. Yeah. One of those games being 9, I believe, to win. And if you could put a rookie quarterback in that situation, he might have. There's not much of a difference between that and sitting out for a game.
No, I did an interesting stat in 2019. Garoppolo threw 27 passes, I believe, in those 2 playoff games, and the offense that averaged the least pass attempts per game that season was the Titans, and I think it was 28 or 29. So he threw less throws in 2 playoff games than the team that throws the least that year threw in 1 or average.
Average. That's awesome.
But one thing I think is interesting about this year. So I'm not saying him not playing enough isn't a concern, but we're going off of decades of seasons without COVID. And so a lot of the data, they'll throw that up on ESPN or in the draft, is how many successful quarterbacks have only played 17 games. Well, a lot of that goes back to we've got most guys play 3 years and they're gone. Maybe they redshirted, but that means if they were really good, they played 2 years and started most of those 2 years. And anyone who has less than 2 years of starts wasn't good enough to win the job, even in their redshirt freshman year or something like that. It says something about their talent. This Trey Lance, he missed a whole season because of COVID for the most part, except for 1 game. We've not seen anyone have to do that. And so I'm not saying it's not a concern. I'm saying the data we have is also kind of skewed because most of those guys who didn't play that many games didn't win the starting job at some point and lost out to someone else, which was a red flag in itself. Trey Lance didn't lose the job to anybody. North Dakota State just didn't play games because of a pandemic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a different situation than anyone else in that situation.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Now, if they are going to continue to stick with Jimmy, like everybody seems to be hoping, because I completely agree with that. It sounds like all 3 of you are in agreement in that, where, I mean, if they're not going to win the Super Bowl anyway, why not let Lance learn? I like that. But
Whoa.
It says they're not winning the Super Bowl.
that's what Chris said, and then you guys didn't disagree. So
I think they're in the lottery. I mean, I don't think their chances are great, right? But I think that they're in that conversation still.
Well, I think in order for that to happen, kind of what to my point, in order for that to happen, they're going to continue to need to rely on that defense. So, do they still have it? Like, is there? I didn't really see any huge player losses other than maybe Solomon this offseason. I mean, do they still have that defense that they need to continue to keep up in the NFC there?
I think if Nick Bosa comes back and is Nick Bosa, then yes, because most of their success from 2019 was from that defensive line.
Freaking animal.
And I think Nick Bosa made Armstead better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the drop-off was last year. Was Armstead wasn't getting the sacks and the pressure he was because Nick Bosa was gone on the other side. So if Nick Bosa comes back and is Nick Bosa, then yes, I think they're good.
That's fair.
There are games Nick Bosa plays without D Ford, and he didn't have the same impact as well. And so, and he had to force Buckner in his rookie year as well. And can Kinlaw take it up a notch? There's so many unknowns with this defense. I don't mean to interrupt, Justin.
Oh, no, you're good.
I'm nervous about. I think Bosa's great. I do. I think he's great. But even healthy, I mean, Samson Ebukam is interesting. D Ford, we don't know if he'll ever play again or not, and if he does, how many games will he play, and how well will he play? Is Javon Kinlaw going to get better? Maurice Hurst was a huge addition that I think people are ignoring from the Raiders.
Yeah.
That was a big value. And I think he's the reason I'm kind of more optimistic about that defensive line. Him and Bosa, I think Maurice Hurst could end up being the best interior defender if Kinlaw doesn't take a big step.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say jokingly, right? Like one thing they need to learn how to do is when Russell Wilson has his back to you, he's going to spin to his back shoulder. You got to tackle him right there. You can't miss those because he does it every play, and it's so frustrating to watch. And that's 2 games a season, so they miss out on about 10 sacks there from the same spin move every time.
Well, and Armstead has bad gap discipline too. He leaves open lanes for mobile quarterbacks to go right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It happened against Pat Mahomes multiple times.
Yeah, Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray ate them alive rushing the ball.
Right. So Maurice Hurst is interesting to me. That secondary really worries me.
But the 49ers are predicated on getting that pressure on the quarterback to where you're not, they're not depending on elite level play in their defensive backs because the quarterback isn't on both feet throwing the ball in the pocket. You know what I mean? He's run on the move under pressure, not throwing the best passes. So if he's throwing the ball at all. So, the defensive backs, it's definitely a concern, but the defensive line is more of a concern to me because if you're not getting that pressure on the quarterback, then, their defensive backs are not going to be the ones that are going to win that game for you.
I see. That was why they did so well in 2019. It was the front 7 made the back 4. It made their job easier.
Yeah.
So
if
the front 7 falls apart, then the whole defense is going to fall apart. Now, I know there was a few games where they kind of got blown out last year, but I mean, even without Bosa, they actually weren't terrible last year. They weren't a terrible defense.
No.
So
they were 15th in scoring, weren't they? Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they were middle of the pack. I mean, they were missing some big players.
My wife just brought me a root beer float. She's amazing.
Oh, man. I need one of those.
Right.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So, I think a lot of it has on Bosa. Is Bosa going to be, is he going to be the guy that he was before he got injured? Everyone's saying he's looking good so far. And Kinlaw. Can Kinlaw become some sort of Buckner-esque, type player.
I mean, were they willing to trade away Buckner like that just because of the impending contract that he was going to have? Like, is that really it seems like this day and age in the NFL where teams can just find money. That would be a guy that you would want to try to find money for.
I think it was a combination of that and a first-round pick. He was the only guy they could dump for a first-round pick. Armstead wasn't going to bring that.
Yeah.
I think they thought that they were able to find a cheaper version of Buckner, so that's why they made the move.
Well, they were successful.
I'll be surprised if that. I mean, I agree. I think that's why they went with Kinlaw. I don't know that they thought they can bank on. I'm going to trade this to the Colts, and Kinlaw's going to definitely be there, because I think around that time Kinlaw was killing the Senior Bowl, and he was rumored to be a top 10 pick about that point. I'm not saying he wasn't their target, but there were a variety of reasons I think they made the move. Cap was number one, and I need number two. They couldn't get a first-round pick for Armstead, who was a free agent anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're going to have to pay him on top of that, and it makes it easier to create that space that they knew was impending for the rest of the. Like, they knew they were going to have to pay Kittle and these other players.
Right. It was like, do you pay Armstead I think $90 million and get a first-round pick, or do you pay DeForest Buckner $130 million and get like a fourth for franchising Armstead? I think that's the math they did.
I've been messaging George Kittle that he needs to put out a quad picture to get his stock to go up for fantasy purposes.
He played high school football at my high school where I played football.
Oh, George did?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you actually get to see him play?
Did you play against him?
He was like 5 years behind me.
Yeah. I didn't know if you went down to watch him play, though.
Oh, no. I've been out of there for a while.
Yeah.
I think one thing I do want to talk about, and am I the only one that was a little bit disappointed? I mean, I think most fans wanted to see them take a corner higher in the draft, probably. But I wanted to see them add another edge rusher for depth on that line. And when Azeez Ojulari was sitting there for them in the second round after trading back, I was disappointed because I know his knees were a concern, but that guy was – he looked like the best pass rusher to me, pure pass rusher in the class, and we went with a guard that doesn't necessarily fit our scheme instead.
Yeah, and had they taken him too, then it would have fit right in with those other two guys they drafted late that you can't pronounce their names either.
Was a good fit.
I made a note to bring up the draft just to kind of see if you guys might want to talk about it to start off, and because everybody's kind of tired of the played out Lance and Garoppolo thing. But I honestly couldn't pronounce a couple of those names. I was like, man, I'm not even going to try this.
Honestly, I was too drunk by that point of the draft because I was in Las Vegas for the draft, and I had a VIP area. And that first pick was so stressful for me. I was pretty drunk before they even made that first pick.
Right on. So you loved it no matter who it was.
I was just happy. So honestly, I was celebrating the fact it wasn't Mac Jones. I really did not want it to be Mac Jones.
No one did.
Yeah. So
I honestly
bought everyone shots.
I don't know if you guys
I honestly didn't believe in the Mac Jones, but there was still a part of me that was like, it could happen.
I had already started making it okay in my head, like making excuses just in case it happened. Like the theme I was running with was, well, I trust Kyle Shanahan's coaching ability, so whoever he drafts is going to be okay.
I was running the opposite way, and I was like, if that's a choice, like, when do we fire them?
Right on.
I said they all just signed new contracts. That would have been a rough one.
I have a question. I'm kind of wondering what you guys think about it with the wide receiver core. I know fantasy purposes, Ayuk is much higher than Deebo Samuels. Where do you guys see the wide receiver core shaking out?
I thought Deebo was going to be the dude, and Ayuk was going to be the one. I thought Debo was going to be the 1, Ayuk was going to be the 2. After last year, man, I don't know. I think Ayuk he took over that 1 spot, so I think him being much higher is spot on.
I broke this down actually in some detail in my 49ers offseason article. I said, and here the conclusion I came to was if Garoppolo is the guy, I think Samuel will have more fantasy value. If you have anyone that is less risk averse and will have more air yards per attempt, Ayuk's the guy. And I basically said if they trade up for a guy with a big arm, that's good for Ayuk, and I think less good for Debo Samuel. And part of that is because over the past 2 seasons, Garoppolo had basically the lowest air yards per attempt amongst any starting quarterback.
Yeah. So let's say Trey Lance takes over halfway through the season.
Right. I Dynasty, Ayuk easily for me because of Lance is there. Redrafts, they're pretty even for me because I'm projecting Garoppolo to play at least 7 or 8 games.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to dink and dunk with Debo Samuel a ton. In the games they played together, he targeted him a ton.
Yeah, for fantasy, I kind of think I get Debo more often than Ayuk just because he's probably about 2 rounds later in fantasy drafts. So, I mean, I'm taking whoever's later out of the 2.
Sure.
And I just gave myself a brain freeze, like chugging this thing. But also, have you guys seen that George Kittle challenged? Because they made this new rule with the numbers where they can choose whatever number or whatever. George Kittle challenged Ayuk to whoever has the highest area or yards after catch gets Ayuk's number next year.
Why does he want to know?
Did he take
that number?
I think he just wants to take his number from him.
Did he take that challenge?
I didn't see if Ayuk responded. I'm not sure.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to have to follow up on that.
Yeah, we're going to have to check that out. Hilarious. Did you guys see Mac Jones in his number 50 jersey?
Yeah.
That was so ridiculous.
That's the number they gave to Sony Michel when he was a rookie too, I think.
I'm not gonna lie. He looked a little bit like an offensive lineman when he was walking out at the draft on draft day. So
he looked like an Oompa Loompa playing quarterback at number 50.
I've been calling him the chubby Winklevoss twin.
If he can do it, we all have a chance.
Right?
I mean,
he gives me hope, even at 35, 36 years old. So
I'm telling you, Kyle Shanahan, my resume's out there, bud.
Big Mac Jones.
We're talking about receivers. I mean, do we think we should try to trade for Julio?
I don't.
I lean towards, I think fans are obsessed with this wide receiver 3 position, and they run 3 receiver sets 44% of the time towards the bottom of the league. His contract's so much. We already don't have many picks.
I don't want to pay the contract. I don't want to give up the Julio he's still nice, but he is on the wrong side of 30.
Right.
And you could see
the injuries have been adding up.
Yeah, I mean, he got replaced in Atlanta, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think people are still they're still stuck on the name.
Yeah, and they play fantasy football.
And I want to see Jalen Hurd get on the field finally.
Yeah, I like to see that.
Get Jalen replaced by a tight end in Atlanta.
Yeah, he's about to be the wide receiver 3 in Atlanta. That's a good point.
Am I the only one that thinks to get Julio, we actually have to trade a player like Debo or somebody? Because we don't. Someone might outbid us.
Yeah, but they probably want a defender, right? Like a defensive player, I would assume.
They might.
A young defensive player because they're in rebuild mode, right? Like they're not.
Are they? They didn't take the quarterback,
which blew my mind. But I mean, tight ends can play for 20 years in the NFL now. So ask Gronk.
Yeah,
broken back and all.
But I'm just saying they passed on Fields.
That blew my mind. I thought for sure if we didn't take him, they were.
Yeah.
I thought that's the whole reason they didn't trade back.
I can't believe Fields dropped all the way to Chicago, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was – I think Fields was surprised he dropped.
Yeah, shout out to Adam Rink. He was super excited about that.
Chicago was probably surprised he dropped to Chicago.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised they pulled the trigger on it. I figured, they would have just completely screwed that up. Yeah, they're like, no, everyone else must know something we don't.
Yeah. I tell you what, guys, I've used up over a half hour of your time. I do want to end on one question that I've ended every one of these episodes with. I kind of get mixed reviews or mixed feelings on the answers. So I have a feeling I know where this one's going to lead. But I'll start with Matt, and we'll work our way around the other way. And here's the question: that at the end of the season, you're going to be sitting down, you're going to be looking back on how this season went. I need to know in your mind what qualifies for being what you feel is a successful season, or on the opposite side of that, if you looked back and you looked at the season, what kind of season would you have to have for you to think, man, this was such a waste of season?
I think they have to be at least be above 500. I think anything below, if it's not an injured ridden, it's not injury season like last season, anything under 500 is definitely a step backwards. Honestly, I don't know. I'm expecting 9-10 wins.
Okay.
Even with Garoppolo,
we might get you in the playoffs too with 7 teams in.
So, oh yeah, that's right. There's 17 games. Oh crap. I think anything less than 9 or 10 wins, and I feel like they've taken a step back.
Right on.
Even with Garoppolo.
Gotcha.
Man, I think to have for me a successful season be ending the season without any key players having major injuries. Because we've been plagued so bad the last couple of years with injuries. Like I don't even care if they make the playoffs, if we're trending that direction, right? Like we're looking good, and we don't have any major injuries. Where now we're wondering, is this key player going to come back next year or be back at the same level next year? That's a successful season for me. And then also, or on the other side, waste of a season or ruined season for me would be if we see Trey Lance play, like if he plays for an extended amount of time and he's bad, like really bad, or if he gets injured, there's some injury to him, that would be tragic. Like just what a waste of a season, because then we're right back where we were.
I will say Aaron Rodgers came in for Brett Favre a couple of times and looked like total trash. So
no, I agree, but like I think you don't see it too often now, right? Like I think if he were to play half the season and look bad, people are going to be ready to give up on the kid nowadays. Like I get it, because I mean we saw Peyton Manning come and look horrible for an entire season. And then he came back and looked great the next season. But they don't give people the same opportunity they used to. They lose faith in these players, as you can tell by their 4th string quarterback, Josh Rosen. He barely had a season to play, and then just everyone gave up on him completely. But this is his 4th team he's on now in the NFL. And he's
Nick Mullins is a good example of that too. Like a year ago, people were like, don't trade him away for a 2nd round pick. Like he's too valuable. And then like 5 games in, it's like he's garbage. He's trash. And it's like,
absolutely,
he's a backup quarterback. He's a backup.
Yeah, exactly. I think I agree with you. It's just the fact that I don't think the NFL does.
George Kittle.
I mean, Mullins is still out there. This is a tirade, but I mean, he's a backup quarterback, and he's a solid backup quarterback. Is he any worse than Daniels was for the Bears or the Saints? Or no, he's a guy that'll step in and win you 33% of your games with an average team. Like,
yeah,
that's a backup quarterback.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
No, you're good. You're good.
I mean, for me, like a total loss, I mean, it's a little bit of a spin on what Justin said. To me, it's a bad sign if Trey Lance doesn't start, but he's starting by week 2 or 3. Because to me, that tells me something went wrong because he wasn't ready to start week 1, but now he's suddenly out there and it's for the wrong reason. So in general, if Trey Lance isn't starting week 1, but he's starting week 3 or 4 or 5, I'm going to be a little nervous about that just because I don't think it's in the best interest of the team. I'm also a draft slut, so I'll say I'm going to be worried if we don't add more future picks after we traded away all of our firsts. Just because what am I going to be looking forward to next April when the draft?
NFC West doesn't believe in first-round picks.
Right. Which is still insanity to me, but maybe
you just have to prescribe to Justin's system and just get drunk that night.
Yep. We could do a Zoom meeting and we'll just drink for the first round.
There you go.
What I expect from them to happen is I think Matt's right. I think 9 or 10 wins makes the most sense with Garoppolo at quarterback or Lance, really, because he's 21 years old. I mean, I think that's a good season for them is 9 or 10 wins. And then, like I said, if they can be on that point where they're kind of out of the playoffs and they can flip someone like, let's say D Ford gets 6 or 7 sacks and someone actually wants to give us something for him, and that'd be a fantastic season for me is if we could get a future second or third for D Ford, unload the rest of his contract because he played well the first few games.
Yeah.
And Trey Lance doesn't have to play. That's a win for me.
Yeah, a contender that needs that defensive help.
Right.
I mean, there's potential there for that trade to happen. That's a good call, actually. If you haven't already written that up, you should, so you can say, I told you so later on. So I mean,
I called Lance. I did 2 pods the day of the trade, and I said I think it's for Lance, but a lot of other people did too.
Yeah, well, we'll say you said it first.
Bogart has a show called My Version's Better, and your version's better. So
and there you go. All right, well. Guys, I thank you for your time. I really appreciate that. This has been a 32 team project for me, and trying to communicate in and out with you guys to try to set up a schedule and all that. Like it's difficult to get 3 guys that know what they're talking about all together in one night, and especially you, Justin, filling in for Bogart the last minute like this. So,
luckily I'm on vacation, so my schedule was open.
Right on. So real quick, I'm just going to throw it out there again for Chris. You guys can find him at _pre-snap read. Contributor at Rotoballer. I threw that on the bottom earlier as well. So at Rotoballer, check that out. And for at 49ers Hub and at Sports Talk Line, it's Matt. And that's at Aries God FF for fantasy football. Very creative, by the way. I actually really like that. I wish I would have caught on to that beforehand. And of course, Justin at Management Clock. Guys, again, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you coming on. And guys, don't forget to check them out.
Appreciate it.